Hello dear friends, and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Emily. I'm the registered dietitian here at Harvest Market, and I am back making a delicious kit for you today. I am doing an Italian gnocchi soup. So I'm really excited about this one. It's probably my last soup for the season. I love soup, and I was debating on whether or not to do a soup, and I figured, you know what? Who doesn't like a good soup? We're still in kind of this cold, dreary, rainy-ish weather, at least at the time of me filming this. So I thought it would be a great kit for right now, and I love a good soup. So really basic. We've got kind of a lot of pieces, but it comes together fairly quickly. We're doing a little bit of simmering, so inactive time. Active time is really not a whole lot in this recipe, as far as, you know, chopping and things, really not a whole lot to do, which is great. So I have a soup pot just kind of preheating here over medium. Now the soup as is, I did not include any meat in it. So there are optional add-ons of meat if you want to add some Italian sausage to this. But I am just making kind of the base recipe with no meat in it. So if you are cooking this with a meat, you would begin first by sauteing that in the pan. So you would do that right now, preheat your pan, add your meat, cook it up, and then you'll add the veggies to that. So I'm just gonna continue on. So if you don't have meat, then this is what you're gonna do. And if you do, just again, put it in the pan, let it saute while you chop up your veggies. So we've got some veggies here. I'm gonna chop up some celery. We have shredded carrot. We don't have to do anything to that. So we're just gonna set that aside. I have some garlic. I'm gonna set that aside too. And then we have some onion. The kale and the lemon is gonna be added a little bit later, so we can just set that off to the side as well. So really the only chopping we have to do is the celery and the onion, which is great. So I'm gonna do a nice fine dice. I like to dice things. I like to dice onions typically for soups. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that in half, take off the peel, and give her a good dice. And then we're gonna add just some olive oil to the pan with some seasonings, really basic seasoning, salt, pepper, Italian seasoning. That is it. All right, every last little bit there. So do some slices this way, and then this way, and then we're gonna chop it up, give us a nice good dice. Beautiful. And then with my celery, just to get nice small pieces, I typically kind of slice it in half lengthwise down the center there, and then run my knife through so I get nice little pieces. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna shake this up really, really good. This is my seasoning and olive oil. So I wanna make sure that I get all of those beautiful seasonings into my pan. And this is our seasoning right here. So all in one. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and add in the onion and celery, a little fibrous piece of celery, we'll leave that out. Okay, I'm gonna adjust the heat just a little bit. I've got my cooking utensil, give it a little toss, and let that saute. In the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and get our garlic just ready to go. We're not gonna add it in quite yet. Gonna wait just a minute because I want my onion and celery to get nice and soft, and we don't need to cook the garlic for that long. Okay, just take the peel off here, and a nice mince. If you have a garlic press you want to use, you certainly can, but a knife works just as good. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and mince this up really, really good. I'm gonna let my my onion and celery kind of saute for about 5 or 6 minutes till it's nice and soft, and I'll meet you right back here. Also go ahead and add in your shredded carrot as well and let that saute with the onion and celery for a few minutes. Okay, we have been sauteing for a few minutes now, and my stuff in here, the celery, the carrot, onion, is getting nice and soft, smells really, really good. We're gonna go ahead and add in that minced garlic and just cook this off for about 30 to 45 seconds before we add the next thing to the pan. Just let that hit the heat of the pan, get really nice and fragrant. You're gonna smell that right away. And it smells so good. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna add is the red wine vinegar. And this is kind of my secret ingredient, not so secret. In any soup recipe, soup, chili, stew, whatever, it needs that acidity. So this is really the thing that is going to give it that next level of flavor, that depth of flavor, that really brightness and lightness, and just adds so much to the dish. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of crank up the heat a little bit. You might have some kind of little brown bits collecting at the bottom of your pan, and that's great. That's gonna build the flavor of our soup. And adding this to the hot pan is gonna kind of lift those things up off of the bottom. And we're just going to, I like to turn the heat up just slightly, so when it hits the pan, it kind of sizzles ever so slightly. Watch your nose, it can get a little pungent. Oh my gosh, you guys, this smells so stinking good. Onion, garlic, those Italian seasonings, there's like oregano in there, parsley. Oh, heavenly. Just heavenly. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna add, after that cooks down for like a minute, literally a minute, is the broth paste. So instead of using a liquid broth, this is my other very, 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 very favorite thing to use. This is better than bouillon broth paste. And it's basically like super ultra concentrated broth, and then you add water to it. So that it's just like cooked down vegetables. This is a veggie paste with some seasonings. It is so good. It is better than any broth, and I've tried so many broths throughout the years, and I've always been disappointed, feeling like they're just really, they just lack a lot of flavor. This stuff is amazing. So I like to use a butter knife to scoop it all out of here. It just works really well. And this is for every 1 teaspoon, you use 8 ounces or 1 cup of water. So this is a tablespoon, which means it has 3 teaspoons. So then we're gonna use 3 full cups of water in this. So I'm gonna go ahead, and my red wine vinegar is cooked down pretty good. I'm gonna add in all of that broth paste, making sure to scoop out every last little bit. So I like to use this, just works really well. It's actually one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. Isn't that funny? A butter knife. It does a lot of things. It's very handy. Easy to use, readily available. Nothing fancy. Okay, give that a stir. Let it kind of melt in there a little bit. And then we're gonna add our water. So I'm doing a 2-person, since I had 3 teaspoons, I'm gonna add 3 cups of water. So there is 1, and then 2, 3. So we're gonna give that a stir. And I'm gonna bring this up to a simmer, to a bubble, and then reduce to a simmer. You're gonna wanna simmer this for about 10 minutes. This is really gonna develop the flavor. And then we are going to add the creaminess, and of course the kale and the gnocchi, okay? So I'm gonna let this go ahead and simmer for about 10 minutes, and I'll meet you right back here, guys. Okay, so we've been simmering away. I am turning down the heat, turning off the heat, because we don't want this boiling when we do the next step. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take a just a dish or a bowl. I'm gonna use my glass measuring cup that I used for my water, so I don't have to dirty another dish. And what we're gonna do is this is the cream part, where we add the creaminess. So instead of using a heavy cream, we're going to be using some delicious creamy whole milk and some Greek yogurt. So this is going to add creaminess. It's also going to add a little bit of protein as well, and a little bit of tanginess and richness. Just beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to wipe off this knife that we used for the broth paste, and I'm going to use it again for the yogurt. Whoops. So I'm going to plop the yogurt in here, scooping everything out. Slippery. Okay. Make sure you get it all out of here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to temper the yogurt and the milk. I'm going to pour this in here, and basically this does have Parmesan cheese in it, just FYI. Basically what this does is it allows the milk and the yogurt to be introduced to the hot liquid in a little amount so that it doesn't curdle. So the milk proteins will want to kind of curdle or coagulate when it hits the hot water or the hot broth. And so in order to eliminate as much of that as possible, it doesn't affect flavor at all. It just affects kind of the look of it. It looks kind of grainy and a little chunky. We are going to go ahead and do it this way. So I'm just going to take my ladle, and really we're going to do about a 1/4 cup, just enough to introduce this and get it kind of creamy. It really doesn't matter how much you add. You can't really over add, just do it really, really slow. We just want to kind of do this in a really slow process. So I'm just going to stir and then gently kind of drizzle this in here. And it's okay if you've got onions in here, carrots in here, whatever, because we're going to add all of this back into the bowl anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to kind of keep stirring it. And really just, we just want to incorporate that. We want to encourage this to mix together without curdling. I'm going to add a little bit more just to make sure we're good. A little bit at a time. And a lot of times tempering is used when we're doing, like, when we're cooking with eggs, so that the eggs don't scramble. If we're adding like eggs to a soup or like in a custard or something like that, that way they don't scramble, because we don't want scrambled eggs when we're doing something nice and creamy, and we don't want clumps of yogurt and milk. So again, just incorporating. And I like to be safe. I like to just, you know, kind of keep adding it in little bits. Again, you can't really over add because we're gonna add all of this back into the pot anyway. So it just ensures that it's really mixed and it's not gonna curdle when we add it in. But just make sure you do it slow, at a slow pace, so that it has time to get used to the heat. Okay, beautiful. So we're gonna go ahead and pour this in here. Just kind of stirring gently. Excellent. Oh, it looks so beautiful. Okay, so now I'm gonna increase the heat. I'm gonna turn this on just low, because we're gonna cook the gnocchi. This only takes about 4 to 5 minutes to cook these guys. Pop them right in. We're gonna add in the kale next as well. This doesn't take long to cook, so I like to add it in at the end. If you notice any like large stems or ribs, then just remove those. I try to get those out when I'm packing these, but sometimes one slips past. So if you get one, just take it out, but this is already chopped for me. I'm gonna save my lemon till the very, very, very end. And we're just gonna cook this, bring it to just like a really, really low little simmer. And we're gonna cook the gnocchi for about 3 to 5 minutes until it's nice and pillowy soft. So make sure that you do taste it at that like 4 to 5 minute mark to make sure that it's the consistency that you like. So I'm gonna bring this up to a slight simmer and I will meet you guys right back here. Okay, our soup is done. It's been simmering away. Look at how beautiful this looks. So the gnocchi is really nice and pillowy and soft. Doesn't take a lot of time at all for it to cook, so really taste it at the 3 to 4 minute mark because they'll get really nice and soft. Our kale just cooks down beautifully. And of course the last step here is to, let me grab a knife. We're going to add in some lemon juice. So this is, the heat is off. I've taken it off the heat completely. I'm gonna half my half and I'm gonna use the rest for serving and then just squeeze in this guy. And this is really important, don't skip this, it needs it. And stir it in and then portion out and serve. And you have delicious Italian gnocchi soup, slightly creamy, super delicious. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Thanks so much for joining me and I'll see you next time.